Hey guys, so this is the actual cutting part 2 cutting video for the this NedFoss Tiger series buoy. Now you can see basically I have it with the belt loop here. It's, you know, kind of loose. It's not a very thick, you know, piece of leather that's kind of holding in place, so it's kind of dangling, but you know what, it does the job. It's going to hold in place. It's not going to come off. As long as you have this button at all times, it should stay pretty much secure. But if this is not buttoned, I can see this thing kind of just, you know, falling out and all that. So as long as you keep the button secured and only remove it when you're ready to remove the knife, then you're pretty much in good shape as far as this, you know, makeshift leather sheath is concerned. Like I said, you know, cost factor comes into consideration. It does the job, but as long as you keep that latch on, it's going to hold your knife and it's going to carry it at your side. So guys, if you want to see part 1 of this video, of this NedFoss video, I'm going to put the link into the comment section or the description, and you could definitely click on part 1 to get all of the specs and the close-ups and the details of this knife. Look at the first video, but this is going to be pretty much all cutting now, all demonstrations, and I'll probably come back to you at the end and let you know what I think about the knife, and obviously you can make a decision yourself. So basically, guys, what am I doing here other than having some fun, some stabbing, some slicing motion on the water bottles? Nothing scientific here, but more importantly, just showing you how sharp of a factory edge I gave you with the knife out of the box. The only thing I think I did was maybe pass it with a little bit with a leather strop. Other than that, this is the edge that it came with. These types of tests is just, there is a purpose behind it. It's testing the edge, testing the point, how strong, how reinforced the point is, if there's going to be any damage. Now, what alarmed me a little bit when I was doing these gravity throws and then the hard downward throws afterwards is how much vibration there was in the knife when it hit the point into the log, and the vibrations that went all the way up, because it's not too hefty of a handle. It's just a very thin type of handle, and doesn't make it a very robust knife. And that showed me why I got a little damage later on. And if you notice, while I was actually pulling the knife out of the stump, you notice I was just going front to back. I wasn't going side to side. I was trying to be very careful not to promote any bending.
Some may ask, why do we do these hard downward throws? Why do we do these drop tests? Why do we do these types of tests? To test out the tip, to see if the tip could hold up. So as you can see, there is a slight bend on the tip. It did take a little bit of a set from those hard downward throws, so it didn't hold up to that test there. So this is why we do these types of tests. Okay, so I tried to kind of put it back in there, put it into the stump and try to bend back the tip a little bit, and it kind of just snapped. Like, actually I wish I had it on film, but it snapped extremely easily. So that's just to be noted, that I guess, you know, the steel just doesn't, it's not a good strong enough stainless steel to be that vigorous with it. So I thought I could kind of bend it back, but instead of, the grind is there. Hopefully I could zoom in on this. You can see how the grind looks underneath it there. But so that's what happened. I'm going to try to continue to work on the edge to see if I can get some work done with it, but the tip is already shot.
Nothing that vigorous here, guys. Just really trying to do as much cutting as possible to give you an idea of how much this knife or this blade or this edge would hold up. Here are some push cuts, batoning push cut style type of thing. It's fun to do, and it's just it's kind of cool. It's a good way to kind of really force the edge to work, to see if any chips, anything microscopic develops from doing this. Again, not trying to abuse it, not trying to destroy it, trying to be a little bit more vigorous with it, just to show you how much you can get away with the knife and how much it holds up. But nothing dissimilar to what I do with all my knives. Little edge check up here, going through some rope. Obviously I didn't have it tightly wound, but it got through the rope with no problem. It was able to slice through everything. Like I said, the edge come out of the box was good, and it did really hold up for the most part throughout all the testing. As far as the edge, it did hold up throughout all of the cutting that I did. It wasn't diminishing to the point where I saw a noticeable difference. It was cutting through everything well. and then, you know, started carving into wood. And you'll see, basically, I'm going to speak about it, how the comfort level of trying to put my thumb over that and having the guard just kind of dig into the middle of my thumb there, into the flesh, was a little uncomfortable. But again, it did get the job done, and I was able to kind of process the wood the way I needed to.
It would have been more comfortable if I could hold it here, if it wasn't this guard here. So you're forced to kind of hold it back here, so you don't have a huge amount of control of the tip. But I mean, if need be, you can get it done. I mean, you can see the edge is working, the wood is flying off. If you kind of had to make a spike, whatever you need to do, process some wood for a fire, you can definitely get it done with this grip. Would it be more comfortable holding it like this? Absolutely. If this hump wasn't in the way, it'd be a lot more control of the tip from holding it from here. But again, holding it back here, there's just enough handle to kind of be able to have some control. I mean, you could even kind of just thumb it here, but I think you need really that grip just to kind of fist it, you know. And you can make some quick work, make a quick spike.
A lot of batoning, guys. I'm really trying to put some pressure on the edge. Again, not abusing it. I'm putting as much pressure on it as possible to see, at $30, how much you could get away with this knife.
That worked. Just kind of feeling like you wish you had more of the edge, this ricasso area, instead of having this ridiculous finger choil, you have more of the edge that extended here, so you have more control back here to be able to process the wood. So you got to kind of stop right here. It kind of limits how much you could use the knife for like serious camping. But again, is it getting the job done? Yeah.
A lot of batoning here, guys. My goal was to try and simulate as much cutting as possible during this demonstration session that I'm doing here with my limited ability and limited resources here, to try and give you an idea of what a typical camping session would be and how the knife would hold up after a typical camping session. So again, I've said it a million times, I'm not abusing it. I am just trying to be vigorous with it to give you a good idea of how this knife will hold up for you. And again, doing this also would show me if there's going to be any more damage that's going to be developed on the knife, any chips, any cracks in the steel, any more bending, any loosening in the guard or anything like that. So here also we're trying to give you a edge checkup. So we're trying to see, after all that cutting, after all that pressure we're putting onto the point and the edge with the batoning and the banging of the wood, how is the edge retention holding up? So far, so good. It's kind of going through the cardboard, slicing through the cardboard pretty well. And you notice now it's getting through the water hose really well. Actually, probably better than a lot of knives I've used this for the test. It sliced through the water hose even after all the cutting, pretty damn good. Has a 90-degree spine on there as advertised, and you can definitely get some really nice sparks out of a ferro rod. So if you did do the processing of wood and you have your lighter knot and all that set up, and you want to make a campfire and you have a knife in hand and a ferro rod, you can definitely spark it and get some good flames going. All right, guys, NedFoss Tiger Series buoy. I try to be consistent with all the tests. I try to kind of keep the tests very similar in terms of the cutting materials, the slicing abilities, the sharpness out of the box, the sharpness afterwards, batoning, hard downward throws, testing the tip, yada, yada, yada. So this way you know that when you do see knives on my channels being demonstrated or reviewed, you know they go through the same parameter of tests, so you know how each individually holds up in each department per se, or whatever you want to call it. But you can see the tip is broken, as you see in the video. Now, it was probably stupid on my part to try and bend it back, because if it bent like that, chances are it probably would have snapped. And really, honestly, as soon as I stuck it in, I wish I was recording it. As soon as I stuck it into the stump to try and give it a little bit of a push to kind of bend it back, boom, it snapped in. And actually that piece is enlarged in the stump itself, and it just snapped off extremely easily. I didn't really have to move it even that much, just like a little movement, boom, it kind of snapped right off. Why do we do these tests? To show you the strength of the tip, to show how much you could get away with the tip. Normally, you're not really going to be doing hard wind downwind throws on a knife like this at this price category, so you know exactly how much you could get away with. Highlights, let's talk about the positives. For 30 bucks, it was slicing, and it had kept an edge. Out of the box, you can see it was very sharp out of the box, cutting through the water bottles. You can see it was very sharp cutting through the wood. Now, obviously, there was a little bit of discomfort here with holding it back here and not holding it up here because of the problems with this fake part, the ricasso here. But I was able to still get that grip, okay, and able to get carving into the wood, and it was able to get processed wood and get it done. I was able to baton with it. I did all of that stuff. It got through it, but obviously it would have been better if they kind of, just like my first video I described, they kind of shaved that down. With much larger hands, I think it would be a little bit uncomfortable, or you would kind of have to kind of choke up on it here and it would kind of come off of your hand. Could you still get the job done? Yeah, I mean, listen, if this is the knife you have and you have to work with it, you have to process wood, you got to make a fire, you got to do whatever you got to do, you'll get it done. Is it the best of handles in terms of the girth here to really hug your hand? No, but again, $29.99, 30 bucks, that's what you're getting. Very happy with the sharpness out of the box, and very happy with the edge retention. The edge retention did hold up at the end when I was slicing through the hoses. It did hold up. Let's actually cut some paper. I'll show you what it's got still. Right, this is probably not the best example of how I'm holding this booklet, but just to give you a little idea. Yeah, I mean, listen, it kept the edge retention. It's still pretty sharp after just really, and I didn't go easy on it, man. I was like banging this thing into the wood, a lot of batoning and all that, but it's still pretty good. It still regained the sharpness. So the edge retention held up after that. So if you have to basically use this all weekend, you'll probably still have an edge to be able to get through the weekend. Again, I did a lot of heavy batoning. I really, slammed this down on the edge. And if you really get in there tight, you can see there is some little microscopic chips in the edge. I don't know if it's kind of coming through, but I can see it with a magnifying glass. You can probably see it right there in the middle. You can see that there is some microscopic chips that developed on the edge, possibly from really banging it down on, with the batoning, very aggressive batoning that I was doing. So probably you developed some chips. Obviously, we know about the tip that bent. Other than that, it didn't bend out of shape. It's still pretty much in shape in terms of the knife itself. Could you straighten out this tip? Could you carve this down and make the tip a little bit, obviously a little shorter, and fix the knife and still work with it? Abso-freaking-lutely. The guard is still in place. Everything is still pretty tight. It's full tang. Everything is working. And if I wanted to fix that tip, I can fix the tip and it'll live to tell another day. So would I recommend this knife from NedFoss at 30 bucks if you want to use it for camping or a camping trip or something like that? I would say abso-freaking-lutely, because honestly, if you're looking to get some cheap knives to take with you and you don't want to ruin some of your more expensive knives, this is a perfect option. Pretty good balance, good edge retention, good sharpness that the manufacturer gives you out of the box. Obviously, you know that there are limitations on the knife in terms of the steel and the tip not being reinforced, and it can probably break easily or bend easily, so you got to be careful with that. But if you're just kind of carving wood, if you need something to cut your rope, make some spikes to tent, cut up the polyurethane rope for the tent rope or something like that, trim it down to tie up your camping ground, this knife can definitely get it done. And the fact that you can spend this much on it and still be able to get it done, that's great. But know your expectations of how much you're going to get away with this. You may be able to get through a whole camping weekend, and you may have to kind of ditch the knife afterwards unless you want to kind of work on it and bring it back into shape or fix any of the imperfections. But I was impressed at what I can do at the price point of this knife, and it's feasible that I can probably fix this and still use it on another day. NedFoss Tiger Series Bowie. Good job, guys, NedFoss, for giving us a very budget conscious option to go camping with, or having an everyday fixed blade that's going to handle your tasks. So that's all I have for you guys. Till next sword and knife video, guys. Thanks for joining. Joe from Jay's Bladecraft signing out. Ciao.